John Lentz, City and State's Managing Editor. In today's Last Hook, we're bringing an excerpt from our recent conference, The Cost of Doing Business. In this clip, our panelists debate the scaffold law, the rising cost of insurance, and its impact on minority and women-owned businesses.
Mr. Petit.
But more importantly, from my perspective as a contractor, that translates to jobs. And again, it translates to jobs in our community, jobs for the minority, the Hispanics, the blacks, and the other members that work in the city of New York. I just wanted to address one point that Mr. or Assemblyman Moyer said, that this doesn't affect it affects everybody. You see, we're painted with the same brush that these rogue contractors that have no safety programs, that have no accountability. My company, we've been in business for 20 years. We're one of the largest minority companies in New York. We have a safety program. We work with the SCA, we work with people, and we're concerned about our employees. My concern is not taking away anybody's right, least of all any Hispanic rights. You know, I'm on the National Hispanic Business, absolutely not. But my grandfather taught me that I'm accountable for what I do. I grew up in a Puerto Rican household, and God forbid I wasn't held accountable for what I do. And every person has to be held to some degree of accountability. And you can't legislate that away. And it affects all of us, because the premium increases that Ross has to pay come from the projects that I can bid. And more importantly, we're gonna lose a lot. Now, the statistics will be there, but if the OSIP, and if this law doesn't get somehow modified, what minority companies that are part of the mentorship program at the SCA are gonna be non-existent. We worked hard, I'm under the SCA Diversity Board, to get these minority firms, Hispanic, Black, Indian, we worked hard to get them to a level that they're growing into a graduate program where they could stand on their own and flourish. But that will be affected because the insurance companies will not be able to insure them.
Well, let me jump in there, because that's a comment that's been made as if the experience of the SCA is somehow indicative of everything that's going on with MWBs throughout the city and throughout the state. That if you can't get owner-controlled insurance, that means MWBs can't get insurance. Well, the fact of the matter is, in almost every other agency in the state that has an MWB program, that's exactly how MWBs get insurance. They get their own insurance. And you know what? If that argument was valid, that no OSIP, no MWBE, then DASNY wouldn't have an MWBE program. The City of New York, which awards, on an average, $288 million of MWBE construction contracts over the last 4 years, wouldn't have an MWBE program. So you can't say that OSIP...
Let me add something.
Wait a second, let him finish.
You can't say that OSIP and not having an OSIP equates with no MWBE program.
You're missing a very important point, Paul. Why is this surfacing now? I'll tell you why it's surfacing now. The insurance that used to be a 122 with a $5 billion umbrella, all right, that everyone has worked with, the MBE program, people can do that and obtain that type of insurance, has changed. Now it has to be a 244 in order to get the umbrella. Now the companies that have not hit the renewal yet are going to be hit with this increase, which is going to be 2 to 3 times their premium. So we are at the tip of an iceberg that you haven't recognized, and that's what's happening to us. Our firms are going to be hit with insurance increases that are going to be prohibitive and make them go out of business. We're going to have another partner, and the partner is going to be the insurance company's rates, because they're trying to cover their losses. So it hasn't happened yet, but Paul, you watch, it's going to happen.
Yeah, and we have a situation where I feel like we're having a circular argument here. We have rates going up and they're going up through the roof. We haven't disputed that. Why? Because of the scaffold law. Why? Because we say so? That's not an argument. We need to have a transparent, empirical analysis of the data that would support that the scaffold law is driving these insurance premiums through the roof. There has been nothing produced in the 15 years I've been involved in this issue that even approaches making that case. We need transparent, empirical analysis of data. We don't have that right now. We have a jurisprudence debate. I would venture a guess that if this was a debate about the scaffold law on the judicial merits, this room would be half empty. The reason we're here is because of cost. How much is it costing? And right now we have nothing being discussed in terms of a thorough, independent analysis of why it is that these insurance rates are going through the roof. Saying it's a scaffold law is saying nothing. Okay? What are the losses? What are the injuries? What are the damages that are being awarded? We have nothing that shows that those expenses are increasing in a way that is any way comparable or commensurate with the increase in the cost of the premiums. And we need to start seeing that before we move our position.
You need to see that to hold individuals responsible for their own.
As I just said, we wouldn't be here if we were having a jurisprudence debate. And
We
that's not.
we
it's
can
not-
have, we
there's a
will
very
gladly
fundamental
have that
principle-
debate.
Excuse me, there's a very fundamental principle that owners and contractors are responsible for safety on the work site. You gave the example of a seatbelt, okay? This is not a car, okay? This is guys up on that building over there, 1,000 feet up in the air.
Exactly.
And this job has a very good safety record because they have a safety program in place where the contractor and the owner do what they're supposed to do. There are a lot of jobs out there that don't. And we need to have protections for those workers out there where the boss, quite frankly, isn't doing what they're supposed to do. And we need two things. One, the deterrent effect of having a law in place that holds them responsible for safety so that they actually do it. And number two, when they don't do it, that the worker who's injured due to that owner or contractor's negligence has a remedy to make sure that when they're paralyzed or crippled, that they can get just compensation.
If I will for a minute, nothing we are advocating is taking away that injured party's responsibility or ability to file a lawsuit.
But it's
Nothing.
taking away the owner and contractor's
No, it's
absolute
not.
responsibility.
No, it's not. All it's asking
That's what the law-
is that a jury of that person's peers makes that decision, not a judge based on a 120-year-old statute.
The legislation
That's what we're
that's,
asking.
excuse me, the legislation that's been introduced would remove the absolute responsibility for the owner
Precisely.
contractor.
I'm gonna-
Well, you just said that the law wouldn't do that.
I know.
Let's
I
move
said
on.
it would bring it to a jury. It would allow a jury of the injured party's peers to make that decision and not immediately grant 100% responsibility to even the contractors who are out there holding toolbox talks at 6 in the morning every morning, like my former employer did. We are saying, don't penalize everybody in the construction industry. We are saying, penalize the individuals, the bad actors, as Assemblyman Moya points out, come down on them, not everybody.
And what we're saying is when you increase your premiums 3, 4, and 500%, show us the data as to what on earth justifies that.
We'll be
We haven't
more than
seen a
happy
shred.
to have an open.
And that's why I'm going to be
Yeah.
introducing legislation that would specifically go to that. The bill would expand the current insurance reporting law by providing more details that would require the liability insurance and financial statements and closed claims data where those insurers could provide coverage against claims made under Labor Law 240. This data collection would provide us, as lawmakers, with a source that's reliable and accessible data that will better enable them to evaluate the liability insurance in this area and assist in providing an optimal product for New York citizens. So we're going to be addressing that legislatively this year as well.
And
wanted
I'm
to-
sure we'll be in that debate when the legislation's dropped.
yes.
But let me just point out a couple of things. Insurance is a regulated industry, okay? There are certain proprietary and claims information that need to remain private, that the insurance regulators have access to. But because it is a competitive business, there's more than one insurer, on the block, public disclosure of some of the details that you might be looking for just simply is not available. It is a regulated industry. You do have a New York State regulator overseeing the work of
I think we need to open up these books. We need to see those numbers that everyone's claiming that is costing us so much money here in the state and costing so many jobs. And let's open it up and let's see these facts. We haven't been able to see any anecdotal facts that go to this.
Well,
And I
sir-
think that this will provide us that ability to do that. And then we can have a actual discussion about how we would go about the future of this state and how we deal with these issues.